Hi, this is Corrine Maury. I'm the independent candidate for Kootenay Central in the upcoming election. Let's talk about property rights in BC and the changes that are occurring right now in legislature through the law. Now, I've been having some issues with the online social media. There's like this new kind of warfare that's happening where some NDP supporter has basically hijacked my photo and my marketing and is putting out messages that are not from me. So I am going to do this video because I'm hoping it'll be a little bit more difficult for him to pretend that he's me. So we're going to talk about something called DRIPA and UNDRIP. And this has to do with First Nations and the whole reconciliation process. And what I have discovered is that generally the public is not aware of what the law really says. So I'm going to try to break this down for you very easily. UNDRIP is the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples. It's a United Nations resolution, and it was a document that is basically given for guidance, but it has no legal authority in Canada. In 2019, the BC legislature adopted DRIPA, which is the Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act, which then did turn it into law, and it was passed and affirmed by every single MLA that was in legislature in 2019. Now, if you would like to look up this document, it's available through the government website under Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act. And there's just a few portions of this that I want to read to you because this is the law, all right? And it's important that we are not just giving opinions here. I'm doing my best to tell you what the law says. So this act starts off really great. In Article 2, this is what it says. Indigenous peoples and individuals are free and equal to all other peoples and individuals and have the right to be free from any kind of discrimination in the exercise of their rights, in particular, those that are based on Indigenous origin or identity. Indigenous peoples have the right to self-determination. That's what we're all fighting for, right? We want any abuses to be handled for fair compensation, for reparation, for reconciliation to happen within our environment. Otherwise, we lose our ability to be human, okay? However, it is this other section of the Act that I want to bring your attention to because this is where the tension is, and this is where we need to be as informed as possible. We as a people can make whatever choice we want, and maybe we are willing to give away our rights to assets, or maybe we aren't. But unless you understand what the law actually says, you won't be informed. So let me read this to you, okay? Article 26. Indigenous peoples have the right to the lands, territories, and resources which they have traditionally owned, occupied, or otherwise used or acquired. Indigenous peoples have the right to own, use, develop, and control the lands, territories, and resources that they possess by reason of traditional ownership or other traditional occupation or use, as well as those which have been otherwise acquired. States shall give legal recognition and protection to these lands, territories, and resources. And then Article 28 says, Indigenous peoples have the right to redress by means that it can include restitution, or when this is not possible, just, fair, and equitable compensation for the lands, territories, and resources which they have traditionally owned or otherwise occupied or used, and which have been confiscated, taken, occupied, used, or damaged without their free, prior, and informed consent. Unless otherwise freely agreed upon by the peoples concerned, compensation shall take the form of lands, territories, and resources equal in equality, size, and legal status, or of monetary compensation or other appropriate redress. In this document, this is put out by the federal government, our government's progress on reconciliation. It should be noted that 2015, the federal government was contributing about $11 billion a year to First Nations, and that has now increased to about $30 billion a year. We have transferred over $200 billion a year, which the compensation is not complete, but I think it should be acknowledged that the Canadian citizens are working hard to make sure that there is fair compensation and that we acknowledge what has happened to the First Nations, Métis and Inuit. There's one other thing I want to bring up, and this is a 2017 a court document. There was a legal action on Haida Gwaii. As many of you know, Haida Gwaii has been turned over to the First Nations, and this legislature, which happened in spring of 2024, all provincial crown land on Haida Gwaii is now formally recognized as Haida Aboriginal title. And there was a court action between the Council of Haida Nation and BC and Cowichan tribes. There were private landowners that were wanting clarity on the status of their property ownership when there was an Aboriginal claim on it. And the Supreme Court of Canada stated that Aboriginal title is inherently at odds with fee simple interests, and the struggle over property rights could impede further reconciliation. Now, this week, John Rustad, the Conservative BC Party, just made a statement a couple weeks before the election that the Conservative BC Party is going to hand over 20% of the land volume to the First Nations. Now, there is no description on what this means. I'm kind of getting the sense that with Crown land in BC, which is 95% of the province, there are many sources of income that are derived from that through mining, through oil and gas, forestry, timber. And it looks like his intention is to give 20% of that income over to the First Nations. That's my guess. My trouble with this is, one, he's dropping this in prior to an election where there is no ability to get clarification on this. The second thing is, this is income for the province. And if we want to be able to continue providing compensation and reparation and to manage the insurmountable debt that the NDP have left us, we need income to be able to support those expenses. And I'm not sure how giving away 20% of that income is not going to put us in a fragile spot. So I just wanted to make clear what my position on this is. It is just, I want to make sure that you are informed as to what the law actually says, that you're paying attention, that this could have impact on how property rights are viewed in this province, and that things are moving along in a way that very often the public is not informed until after the fact. So here's my little blip for you. I hope that helped clear things up. And again, I think one of the best ways that we can look at how we are going to live together in a way that is kind is, can we think of ourselves as relatives? That we may come from different backgrounds or cultures, but we are all somehow connected historically. So whether you like it or not, I'm a relative of you. And let's try to embrace more of this interaction where we are trying to benefit each other rather than trying to destabilize all that is supporting all of us. All right, so that's your tidbit for the day.